What's up, core reporters? Welcome back to my channel. Sorry, I'm a bit late on this story. It came out about 2 days ago, but there's just so many stories to cover, so little time right now, okay? So let's get into it. On the most recent episode of Kail's Coffee Convos podcast, she opened up about her boyfriend and alleged fourth baby daddy, Elijah Scott, has been begging her to get married, but she just doesn't feel like she is in a good place to get married. She just, says that she already did it the first time. It exploded. She and Harvey just did not take their vows seriously, and they wound up divorced. So she would feel like a hypocrite if she were to marry again, right? So I will play the audio clip for you. I most certainly do have it here on my cellular device, but let's back things up as to why she is even bringing this up, shall we? So a listener to the podcast wrote in about a situation in which a wife was emotionally and physically neglecting her husband. And I don't know, maybe she had something going on in her life that was distracting her or something like that. The husband had tried to tell her a couple of times over the years. This was not just something that happened like that at the snap of a finger. It was over the years that he was trying to connect back with his wife, and she just was not having it. And so he eventually sought that gratification elsewhere. He wound up sleeping with a person who I believe is a coworker. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that was the situation. And she wanted advice on what to do, right? Because she was obviously very hurt and felt betrayed. And Kail was like, well, how do you think your husband felt when he was trying to connect with you over these years and you weren't there for him, right? You didn't want to get intimate with him, you just weren't there emotionally for him. So of course, at a certain point, he was going to seek that elsewhere, which is very Kail, right? Because Kail has cheated in a lot of relationships and she's been cheated on in a lot of relationships. So the idea that cheating is a natural part of a relationship when you feel like your needs aren't being met, it just comes to her, right? Because of that has been her experience. And so Lindsay, that hasn't been her experience. That is not her belief system. She feels as though the husband should have decided, listen, if this doesn't work for me, I'm going to leave this relationship, right? Even if it's he didn't have to necessarily divorce. He could have just moved out of the house and said, okay, well, I'm moving out because I just don't want to be in this situation right now. I'm giving you the time to decide whether or not you want to actually check into this marriage. And that's it. He didn't have to resort to cheating. And so that was the discussion that they were having. And then ultimately, Kail got into the situation about her own marriage. So let's take a listen to what it is that she exactly had to say about marriage in her terms.
Than you. But that in my opinion, that doesn't make cheating okay.
I don't think cheating's okay. I'm not saying what he did was okay, but I understand it. I understand how he got there. And I just feel like I'm having a hard time now because Elijah wants to get married yesterday, right? But I'm I already made my vows to somebody and I didn't even follow through with them, right?
Yeah.
I didn't follow through with them. We had this big fucking wedding. We wrote our own vows. We didn't even just get ones from the officiant or whatever they're called. We wrote our own fucking vows and didn't even follow them. So what the fuck do I look like remarrying and saying all these vows and I didn't even follow through with what I was supposed to do the first time, right? So
but I don't think that you can hold yourself accountable for the rest of forever for what you didn't do in a past situation if you're in a different place to be able to do it now.
So there you go. Lindsay's like, listen, you divorced, but it doesn't mean that you can never remarry again. You were in a different place in your life than you are now. And of course, Kail was much younger too. She and Javi got married very young. They had a baby very young, and she already was a teen parent at that point. So I would hope that she's done some growing since then. So I don't think that she should discount herself from ever getting remarried. People remarry all the time. Some people will remarry even 4 times. You know what I mean? It's possible. And so if she wants to do it again, go ahead and do it again. If she believes in this relationship, go ahead and marry the man, right? If she wants to, right? But I digress. Anyway, why don't I just pop on over and do a recap for her latest podcast. So now outside of this Coffee Convos podcast situation about Elijah wanting to marry her, but actually I gotta say, I am quite surprised at this situation that Elijah wants to get married again because he just got off a divorce when he got with Kail, right? Then he jumped into her situation with all these kids by all these different men. Apparently, he almost immediately knocked her up too. So maybe that's the motivator for him wanting to get married so quickly. I don't know. Maybe he's just a hardcore monogamous person because there are people like this. I did go to school with a guy. He like really was into like relationships and dating, and just he really wanted to get married. So every time I'd see him, he'd have a new girlfriend. It's not like these relationships would last a short time. Like these relationships would last like a year, right? So I met him. I was making banana bread. So now I have this fruit fly that won't leave me alone. So this guy, like I met him in first year. He had a girlfriend then second year, he still had the same girlfriend, but midway through he breaks up, finds a new girlfriend. Next year, same thing. And then they break up. And then eventually, like, you know, school's done, we graduate. And then guess what? He pops up on my Facebook married. And I'm like, oh, like he really wanted to find the one. So I feel like Elijah might be a case of that. You know what I mean? So no judgment there. Now, moving along to her other podcast. So Kail did an episode of her Barely Famous podcast next. And so in this podcast, she's talking to this TikToker that I really enjoy. His name is Gay Man with a Spray Tan. And he's like the most famous Kardashian stan ever, right? Like he's really funny. We're mutuals on TikTok. I really enjoy his content. And so in this podcast, she's talking about trying to get casted for another reality show. So if you're a channel member of mine, you saw this video that I posted a couple days ago recapping a different podcast. She's got so many, I don't remember. So this one would have been the one with V, Baby Mama's No Drama. And she was talking about how she had auditioned to be on Fear Factor, but they rejected her. And now she's talking to Gay Man on Spray Tan on a different podcast about how she auditioned for another show. And she says that she's actually been begging to be on this show. It's called Special Forces, but she got rejected from that show as well. And I feel like she's applying for shows that require you to be in like incredible physical shape, right? Because, you know, on Fear Factor, they do a lot of physical endurance challenges. On Special Forces, same thing. And she talks about how Dr. Drew is on that show. Dr. Drew is in great shape. You could see from his arms and his, like, you know, his stomach, like he's someone that you can tell is in great shape, who goes to the gym, right? And then they had Portia on it. Portia, like, she's got 2 BBLs allegedly, but like she's still someone who goes to the gym, right? And is in great shape. And then like Tom Schwartz is not, though. So that was an interesting casting choice. So I think that that's the reason why she's not getting casted on these shows that she wants to go on. And not to mention, she is pregnant like every time you turn around. So I think that that might be another hindrance for her getting onto these shows, but I digress. Now, she also goes into Kylie Jenner's baby name. Of course, Gay Man with a Spray Tan was all over Kylie's baby name, right? And then there was like a TikTok he did that went viral where he claimed that Kylie whispered the baby's name in his ear. Well, he reveals for the first time on Kail's podcast that Kylie actually did not whisper anything. It was just a bunch of hair, which he goes, well, isn't that the hint? Like, didn't she technically tell me that the baby's name was Air, which I thought was really funny. I really love his sense of humor, you know. I think he really plays into it. It's like it's hilarious. I don't think he's this crazy stan. It's just like a character, and I really love it. So Kail tells a story about how her grandma told her that a lot of the men in her family have Air as like a middle name or something like that. Not a lot, but at least 2. So she's like, oh, like that sucks that I can't use it. Girl, you had all these years, all these other babies to use it on, and you didn't use it. So if you wanted to use it, you would have, in my opinion, but I digress. And then she says that the Kardashians have other baby names that she really loves, like True and Dream, but she can't use because she's also in the reality space. And so she feels like those names are spoken for, which, you know, I can get, right? But yeah, that's basically all the little tidbits that came out of her latest podcast episodes, you guys. I've got so many videos to catch up on. I need to recap Raquel part 3 on Bethany Frankel's podcast. Then I got to do some more content on Britney Spears's divorce. She just spoke out on that, so I'm going to cover that. And I'm doing laundry, so that's why my chair is bare here. Like, usually I have pillows and like the thing, but that stuff has been thrown in the wash, so I got to do that. Happy Saturday, you guys. See you in my next video. Take care. Let me know what you think about all this, by the way, of course. See ya.